Hi, my name is Ben Glover and I'm the instructor for this class. I have been affiliated with Inupiat since October of 2010. I was actually up there working in every village, teaching in every village until last August, and now I work for them on an adjunct basis as I teach down here. By day I'm a full-time school teacher in a little tiny town right here called Edna Bay. We have 14 students. I do not obviously have an office in Barrow as I'm down here, but I will be coming back to Barrow on the 7th of June, and I hope to get a chance to meet some of you then. Normally you'll be coming to this video so that we may have a discussion and I may give a lecture on the topic at hand, and we'll still do that to some degree. But because this is the first week, and just based off the nature of what this week's lecture is about, I thought this was a better way to start. Once again, my name is Ben Glover. I was an economics and business administration double major at Seattle Pacific, which is where I got the credentials to teach this class from, and then decided I actually preferred teaching and went back to Idaho State University and got my teacher's credentials then and my master's in educational leadership as well. So that's me, and there'll be forum posting underneath here so that you can tell me all about you as well. So a little bit about this class. It's summer, which means the time we have to cover everything is cut in half. That will mean it will have to move fairly quickly. The readings will be more than I would generally put in a week, but hey, we'll be done in half the time too. The reading you will be expected to do, and there will be some questions for each week that you'll be expected to answer and to send to me. And at the end we'll have a test. The test will be no problem. If you've been paying attention, it shouldn't be a problem at all. I'm not trying to trick you on the test. It's all going to be kind of basic knowledge that should be easily and readily apparent. Where I'll be looking for some more in-depth understanding is the paper that we'll do at the end on how you can apply the skills that we've learned in this class to what you're doing or what you see yourself doing in the future. Okay, the book we'll be using, two of them actually. First one is 50 Miles from Tomorrow. Well, I see it's backwards in the camera there. Okay, by William Hensley. And the second one we'll be using is Organizational Behavior by Robinson Judge. Okay, we'll be spending more time on 50 Miles from Tomorrow, but I don't want you to underrate the Organizational Behavior book. If you do not have either and you have gone to the bookstore and they don't, and it's going to be a problem, let me know as fast as possible, especially with the textbook, the Organizational Behavior book. I have options. There's things I can do to make it possible for you to be able to stay with us, but I can't do it if I don't know. So, speaking of getting a hold of me, it's both on the syllabus and it's on the Moodle page, but feel free to get a hold of me by phone or by email. 208-312-0114 is my cell. If I'm teaching, I won't answer it, but my school number here is 907-594-6110. You can leave a message on either that I will return. Email ben.glover@illasavic.edu or bglover@sisd.org. But all of that you should already have if you've gotten to this point. So, but I'm eager to hear from you, and I look forward to the discussion. Now, this week's lesson is supposed to be about Inupiat culture values. Well, what's the problem with me teaching Inupiat culture values? Well, as you can see, I'm not. I did not grow up the North Slope. I did not grow up in Inupiat family, and though I'll get into my experience with the culture in a bit, I don't have what I'm sure many of you have, which is a grounding in the culture, having lived it and having been there and having grown up in Inupiat. So, however, that being said, my history with Alaska is I spent 4 years living in Bethel and working out there. I ran a receiving home, and it's a lot like CYS. CYS is a little bigger than the place I was running in Bethel, but basically the same thing. And while there, I also foster parented, and because of that, ended up having 2 Yupik boys from Gweithluk, if anybody's familiar with the area, who are mine in every way except for legally adopting, of course. I am their father, and my wife their mother, in every rational, normal way, and they've been in my life for 9 years now. So, and living with me for 7 of those 9 years, and then the last 2 years, well, now they're an adult, and they're out on their own, and that's wonderful. And then moved back to get my teaching degree to Idaho. Then, as soon as I was done, came back up and worked in Barrow for the last year, and have traveled and to the village and worked for Ilasavik. So, I can't say that I know from personal experience in the same way that many of you do, but I'm going to try to not hopefully completely embarrass myself in this discussion by grounding what I have to say in the context of what we're going to be learning in this class, and specifically trying to refer to a few of the things that Mr. Hensley talks about in his book, which you probably haven't gotten to yet, but hopefully will make sense when you do. The first value, as adopted by Ilasavik, is avoidance of conflict, and that will pertain directly to 1 week of this class. 1 week of this class is going to be just basically negotiation and conflict. It's how does that happen in the course of an organization? How does a manager need to be able to deal with that and be successful with it? Mr. Hensley speaks about that quite a bit in his book, in terms of not being afraid of it and not necessarily welcoming it, but being willing to take it on when it comes up. That's not something, being in conflict is not something that comes natural to him. I mean, it's part of the value to avoid it. But if he's going to be the representative for his people, for his communities, and they're going to be listened to, then he needed to go beyond what maybe he was originally comfortable with, and in doing so was successful, but not seeking it out, not creating conflict where it didn't need to be. He needed to not be afraid of it, but he also stayed true to himself in not creating it where it didn't have to. There's a lot of fights that could have been had that were avoided, and friends that were kept because of his concentration on that. The second one being compassion. In my opinion, this is one of his greatest skills that he shows at many points, with his family, with his communities, with the elders in his communities. It really kind of flows through his veins very naturally, and as you'll see when you're reading the book, it's really a part of who he is. And just, really who the culture in general. Cooperation. That is also going to be a bigger part, especially near the end, as we talk about styles of cooperation and styles of how to have people work together. It's another thing that he just couldn't have been successful with everything that Mr. Hensley has done in his life, as far as starting AFN, having an impact on the Alaska Native Land Claims Settlement Act, being a member of the state legislature. All of the things he was able to accomplish came directly out of cooperation. family and kinship. Now, the way that's displayed in the books, it's a little different. It's, yes, he definitely is out there and trying to be the best family member he can be, but the truly transcendent parts of the book that come to do with family and kinship happen to him, not by him. And he's very honest and very clear, and there's a wonderful insight on how many members of his family, how many members of his kin helped him along the way and made it possible for him to be who he became. Okay? Love and respect for our elders and another. Well, it is very clear in the book that that's exactly why he was doing what he was doing. That without that love, without that reason for being, that he wouldn't be out there putting himself on the line. He wouldn't have run for Congress at one point. Giving up, just taking care of himself would have been a lot easier at a lot of different points. But because he had that respect for the elders, for his another, and for his community, that's why he was willing to take that on. Humility. Humility is something that comes quite easily to Mr. Hensley, that he's very comfortable in his own skin. Even as a kid, though there's some moments where, you know, any teenager will kind of try to examine who they are. Even as he's describing his childhood, he's always very comfortable within his own skin. Almost to a fault. There's almost a few points in the book where you feel like he's so humble, he's so meek, that some of the things that maybe he could take on, he doesn't take on because he doesn't think that he's capable, or he blames a few things on happening on an amorphous outside presence that he could take on, that he could try to fix. Not much, I don't want to overdo it, but humor. Humor's a huge part of who he is and the book, and it's really what makes the book so wonderfully readable. Infused completely throughout the culture and very clear. Hunting traditions. It's not a hunting book. He has a few hunting stories. They don't overwhelm the book, but it's clear that he has a love and a deep respect for the hunting traditions. Knowledge of our language. One of the things that I really appreciated that he gets into is having my experience in the Inupiat culture, how he wants to use what they're doing as a model for what he would like to bring back to his home community of Kotzebue. That sustaining language, keeping the language, and finding it very important to stay with what he's doing, and to keep that going and not to lose that language. Respect for nature. Again, those come through, you know, over and over. It's never a central point of a chapter, but it's always very clear in what he's doing. Sharing, and that whether we're talking about sharing, you know, the meat, sharing credit, sharing anything he had, and you know, kind of it gets back to that respect for one another. It's really just a central part of who he is as you're reading the book. It's really something to be enjoyed. And spirituality is probably the element least apparent in the book out of all of the. It's not that it's not there. It's just never at the center. He'll talk about churches. He'll talk about the role of churches. But he doesn't get into his own spirituality directly as much as he might in another forum. It's also clear that he's had some negative impressions of churches overall, while having some very, very positive experiences and impressions by individuals who belonged to the church, who really made it possible for him to become what he was becoming, especially as a teenager. So that's all we've got for this week. I look forward to your comments. I look forward to learning more about you, and I want to know how this works. I'm going to post this video, and then before I post the other ones, I want to make sure that this is going to work okay. Thank you, and I look forward to talking with you.